Please pay attention. All the stories you will watch on this channel are real. Each horrifying story has happened to poor people, and most of them are no longer in this world. Be careful. May it not happen to you too.
Hello everyone, on this channel I will talk to you about completely real paranormal events that have taken place around the world. These events involve real demons and have resulted in deaths, focusing on demons haunting people. The first incident I will tell you about is from Turkey. In 1988, the village of Davutlu in Turkey experienced this event, and the entire country held its breath and listened in fear. The events were terrifying to the extent that they would make one's hair stand on end. This incident is called Dark Grandfather's Incident. Have you ever heard of the Dark Grandfather's Incident? If you are into researching or listening to paranormal events, you might be familiar with this incident, or have come across it in some form. Of course, you might have watched its movie as well. According to the stories, in the village of Davutlu in Turkey, unexplained events occurred. Animals began to disappear, chickens stopped laying eggs, crops failed to sprout, and women became unable to conceive. While all this was happening, a journalist wanting to investigate came to the village, and during interviews, the villagers claimed that certain entities were haunting them. Between 1988 and 1989, in the village of Davutlu in Karadedeler, villagers recount paranormal events that allegedly even caused some people to lose their lives. According to legend, after fog descended upon the village, people started seeing entities resembling jinn and devils within the mist. The villagers, who named these entities Dark Grandfathers, soon began experiencing inexplicable incidents. They started hearing noises coming from outside the village. As night fell and the fog covered everything, screams and cries of animals began emanating from around the village, and people were too frightened to go outside, although no one could fully understand what was happening. Once the incident was reported in some newspapers, a journalist set out to investigate. The journalist HB, after wandering around the village square and speaking with the headman, conducted interviews with the villagers. Almost all the villagers confirmed seeing these entities, thereby verifying that the events indeed took place. Realizing that everyone seemed to be in agreement, the journalist continued to stay in the village for 11 days, during which he did not encounter any paranormal events. Unable to produce a story and running out of money, the journalist taught a 14-year-old child how to operate the camera, instructing him to record if anything extraordinary happened, and then left the village. 3 days later, 4 civil gendarmes picked up the journalist from his home in Istanbul at night and took him to the gendarmerie headquarters in Lüleburgaz. The journalist, not knowing what was happening, asked why he had been detained. He was shocked by what he learned. 3 of the households he had interviewed had been brutally killed, totaling 7 people dead. Among the deceased was the child to whom he had lent his camera. The senior commander of the gendarmerie, a captain, conducts the interrogation. The reason the interrogation is recorded on camera. In the village, 7 people from 3 households where the journalist had conducted interviews were found partially dismembered. Many people lost their peace. The bodies were left without integrity. Savagery everywhere. The houses were covered in blood. The journalist's name was written on the walls of the house in blood and Arabic letters. This prompted the interrogation of HB. Among the deceased was the child to whom the journalist had given his camera. The camera given to the child was never found. After detailing his experiences and establishing his innocence, the journalist was released following the interrogation. Not long after, on February 3, 1989, the journalist's clothes, boots, and notebook were found in a forest near the village, but he himself was never seen again. What happened to the journalist remains unknown, and he was never heard from again. The events in Davutlu are described to the villagers as a case of mass hysteria, to prevent further panic and fear among the village population. The funerals are conducted in strict secrecy, attended only by the gendarmerie and the villagers. According to claims, the majority of the villagers left the village, resulting in a rapid decrease in the population. Following the events, the gendarmerie commander who interrogated the journalist fell into a depression and committed suicide. Years later, the daughter of the gendarmerie commander opens his safe. Reportedly, after her father's death, the captain's daughter opened his secret safe and found 3 videotapes of interrogations, newspaper clippings from 1989, and the missing journalist's notebook. During a time when she was in need of money, the captain's daughter sold these tapes. In 2011, these tapes, claimed to be authentic, were compiled by a film producer and turned into a movie titled Dark Grandfather's Incident. Despite 35 years having passed, the events in Davutlu have not been forgotten. Most of the villagers have fled and abandoned the place. Those who still live there today cannot speak loudly about what happened and are still fearful. They try to drive away the many curious visitors who come to the village by treating them poorly, and they refuse to speak with anyone about the incidents. However, it is said that screams can still be heard from the forest at night, that animals do not give birth, and that the journalist who went missing still wanders there at night. Today's true horror story comes from Turkey. See you in the next story.